Hi, I'm Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
And you're listening to Relatively in Tune, where we talk to creative people and the people close to them. Today, our guests are Jade Zaroff and Taylor McMahon. Jade Zaroff is a voiceover artist, singer, and founder of Entertainment for Change, which is a nonprofit organization that helps teens find their creative purpose and become impact artists, which is a beautiful term I love. Taylor is the resident choreographer for the North American productions of Six the Musical, both the national tour and the Broadway production. They met at Emerson College and have been close friends ever since, collaborating and doing all kinds of cool stuff. Why don't the two of you introduce yourselves?
My name is Jade. I have been living in the city for now over 10 years, which is kind of a crazy thought. I'm doing various things around the city, but most of my priorities lie in voiceover, acting, and auditioning, as well as pursuing my nonprofit organization, as you mentioned, called Entertainment for Change. It's gone through various chapters through my time in New York City, but right now our primary goal is to activate and empower teens to help them find purpose in their art and align their work to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So to kind of like level up what they're creating and find more meaning in how they're executing and sharing those projects.
I love that.
I'm Taylor. I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and have been in New York since 2016. And growing up, I've always been a part of the dance community, competition dancer kid, always finding my way into different types of performance opportunities in the Boston area. And then I moved to New York with the hopes of really just performing anywhere, anytime, in any capacity. And I've been able to sort of carve an interesting path for myself, primarily in associate work as the right-hand person to different choreographers for off-Broadway shows, immersive shows. And in 2022 is when I joined the choreography team of Six the Musical. So I am the resident choreographer with them. I help put people into the show, audition them, maintain the integrity of the choreography that was created by Carrie-Anne Ennui, and just really help create that story over and over again, reaching so many audience members throughout the country. And I think similar to Jade, with everything that we do, we always want to find greater impact. And I think that outside of Six, a lot of the work that I do with young people in the arts as well is aligned with those goals of connection, community, and all the things like that. So whether it's Broadway or public schools or the kids that we've both nannied when we first started moving into the city, we'll talk about that, I'm sure. We have many stories and many connections, but I think the common denominator for like why we do what we do is like to create that meaningful change. So yeah, we're really happy to be here. So thank you for having us.
That's so impressive.
Yeah, that's amazing. The thing that jumps out at me most about what both of you said is you both seem to have a really clear idea of your purpose, your goals with what you're doing. And that is something I admire so much. It's the biggest thing I'm struggling with right now. And that's something we talk about a lot together with both of our careers.
Yeah, for sure. What made you want to get into voice acting and also working on Broadway? I was always the kid that wanted to read out loud in class when everyone was like, I don't want to raise my hand and speak. I always was like kind of laughing at myself where if you wanted me to just answer on the spot, it wasn't really, I want someone else to answer. And then I kind of love repeating things in my head and sharing information in that way, which is why I respect teachers so much of just like sharing information from scratch. But I love speaking out loud if I have a script in front of me. So I actually had never really considered voice acting as something that was an option for me. There isn't really a lot in education in voice acting as much as it's kind of like umbrella term of acting and then you find your path within that. But I was very lucky to meet someone at Emerson that introduced it to me, and I started right out of college doing a lot of radio work and then moved to commercials, and now I'm auditioning in a lot of animation and audiobooks. And then I also just working with kids, I'm like constantly reading out loud. And I've always found my voice to be a superpower in a way that I've really reflected on in pursuing voice acting and thinking about how my voice is literally how I communicate information to someone. So I'm very conscious of not only like what I'm saying to someone, but how I'm sharing information, and how that's coming across is really interesting to me. How someone is receiving what I'm saying based on being softer with how I'm sharing that information, or like speaking faster and trying to get it across in a way that doesn't lose someone's attention. So I've just been really fascinated by that idea and the how behind sharing information.
I love hearing you control your voice to demonstrate that as you were doing that.
It's a
that was
fun
fun
sense of control when you don't have like other ways in which you can control life. It's like, but I can control how I share information.
Yeah. I felt my shoulders like go down when you're
Yes.
like,
relax.
So such a calming voice. Meanwhile, when I'm teaching this show, I'm not going to demonstrate, but my energy level goes full speed ahead.
If you've seen the musical.
It has
Yeah,
to
if
be.
you've
Yeah.
seen Six, it's 80 minutes of cardio and some rhinestones and heels. No, so, I think the question on purpose and how did I get to Broadway, I think it's something where I have been someone very similarly, like the power of our voice and the significance on how art can really connect people is something that I've always been drawn to. So for me, it doesn't matter what environment I'm in, as long as I am a part of a community of people that have that shared goal and respect, I'm happy to cultivate those spaces. So I think when I first moved to New York, I didn't have like Broadway set as like the ideal place to arrive to. I think I've always just said yes to things that made me feel good. And of course, that comes with a great privilege. And I know that my skill set and the training that I have has allowed me that privilege. But I just think that the dance classes that I was taking, the teachers that I was mentored by and took it upon myself to create and foster those relationships allowed me to see that the difference between good and great, there's so much great training, but the difference between like great and exceptional on the people that you're collaborating with really does make the work better. And so I think with that, my purpose has always been to collaborate. And I went to Emerson as a speech therapist major. So I've been involved in the disability community. And again, all of that surrounding accessibility and communication, as well as finding new ways to reach a goal together, maybe thinking outside of the box. Those are all things that I've been doing since I was 12 years old. And how could you just sort of Frankenstein a career for yourself? And so it was hard for me at the beginning. And I think something that we relate to a lot is we are carving a path that maybe not a lot of my friends at the time at which I was starting to assist and become an associate on different shows. I didn't have as many peers to say, is this the right thing? Should I say yes to this? And I'm sure you can talk about your own journey with the nonprofit, but again, you just have to come back to that center and that purpose. And so me getting to this Broadway production is a result of so many smaller pieces that have sort of paved the way. And the composite of that is what makes it so exciting. It's not, oh, I achieved this thing of Broadway and therefore I've done it. It's like it's just still a part of that path that feels connected. And so it doesn't feel like this. I mean, when I got it, I was definitely really pumped. But it's helped me stay grounded. And I think Jade and I talk about this a lot, so I can turn it to you. But just the fact that having each other to sort of, even though we're in very different worlds, we still can use our individual experience as a platform to kind of compare and contrast of, does this feel right? Like, should I take this? Or this is so stressful. Why is this so stressful? We kind of keep each other grounded in that way.
Meaningful friendships where people tell you how it is and you can reflect in ways that are supporting one another versus like be beyond a soundboard, really trust the other person's opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get from that major to where you are now? How did you find that connection?
I think the connection that, I think since I was really 12 years old, I felt in these like parallel universes that they were in relationship to each other, side by side, very intense with my dancing, very intense with my school. And at 12 years old, I started babysitting for this young girl at the time, Jillian, and she was a student in my mom's special ed class. Jillian has Down syndrome, and I started out as a mom's assistant in a way. And after school, we would make up dances, and I would be helping her kind of regulate through the hardships of her life and the homework and the struggles of just getting through another day. And we would create these dances and really connect with each other. And I just saw the impact that it had on me and her and the people around us. And so I think subconsciously I already was finding ways to utilize my interests and my skills. And I kept with my training. And when I decided to move to New York, I was working remotely for a startup that helped kids with autism. And again, I would be on a call in the waiting room of an audition, go into the audition and then make a flyer for something. So I just think we always are making it work, and it doesn't always have to consciously build on each other. But again, the same thing I just keep saying is if I just keep me as the common denominator of this makes sense for me, maybe there'll be connections, maybe there will be themes. And then just taking class and by word of mouth. I show up to the class, I do a good job, I make those connections, I think I'm a good person and make an impact, you know? So those are the people that you just start to cultivate those relationships with. I've just been so grateful to have those opportunities, but also really trust my gut and have the support system of friends and family and the confidence to be able to just dive in, not knowing that you'll get the outcome that you wanted, but sometimes the creation of that and knowing that there's actually so many options helps you just trust fall into it. I mean, Jade, talk about Green Gala, because that's literally like what you did at Emerson. You made something out of nothing, you know?
To kind of answer a question that wasn't asked, but to piggyback off of what Taylor just said, we met because she was my RA in college. So the hilarious nature of her literally grounding me, where I'm like, not grounding me, not punishing, but grounding me to the ground, to the floor. She never punished me, I swear. I never needed punishment. Yeah. I started an event at Emerson College called the Emerson Green Gala that Taylor had just mentioned, which was the iteration of the beginning of the nonprofit organization. And in a nutshell, I was basically pitching to organizations on campus to create original art around the celebration of Earth Day. So I was like, create an original song, a dance, like whatever art looks like to you. It can be a piece of clothing, but just an extension of sharing your love for the planet in any way. And it was an idea from scratch, called it the Emerson Green Gala, had an incredible support system around me that was built from the ground up, from the president of the college and from friends like Taylor. And we performed together at the Green Gala, but also just shared before, like having friendships starting in college that were very raw and very, this is an idea that is in my head. And as Taylor so eloquently shared, having you as the common denominator. I was a musical theater major at Emerson, so like I hadn't gone into college going, I'm going to start something new, as much as I was a player in a lot of new ideas as an actor. I was like showing up and auditioning, and to take control of what I had no control over, which was being cast in something. I was like, what if I created something from scratch that I could cast myself in? And I really loved that concept, and I ran with an idea that I became really passionate about. And I can talk about the backstory of how that came to be, but similar to Taylor, since I was a little girl and like growing up, environmental activism has been a huge component of my life. So just combining those interests early on started to manifest into something that you accidentally have a company now and you're graduated from college. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to say about that. But we've collaborated since the day we met in college, and it's been really fun to see that evolve.
That's fantastic. I think, for one, the concept of taking control and making your own thing from scratch is such a powerful one. The people who can do that in any art form, they go real far, real fast. And something you said, Taylor, about Frankensteining together your career. That's, yeah, I think like, I don't think there's a creative career in the arts that's not a Frankenstein in some way. You know, you have to try everything just to see what sticks. And it's all just pieces in the path, like you said.
Same with you two. You started you had starting something from scratch.
Yeah, we've tried a bunch of other things before this. We opened a yoga studio in 2020. It was bad timing.
Yeah, really bad timing.
Okay. I think to that point, something that's helped me too, so the question of like, how do you go from this major to this? It's so many of the things that I've learned. I've also done work in like research writing and experimenting with topics on like communication and health and all of that stuff. But it's the same thing as being an artist. It's that iterative process, that fail fast, that startup culture of I have this idea, I'm passionate about it. And I mean, we have spent many hours talking about what entertainment for change could be. I've had different versions of my involvement there, but no matter what, I'm Jade's friend. But it's just that like repeated, not even failing fast. I don't even really like that idea, but just the quick learning and re-upgrading of your processing system of what it is that we're doing.
And the willingness to creatively pivot. I mean, I don't know the story, obviously, but if you start a yoga studio during a global pandemic and you're like, what do we do next? Maybe we talk about it. There's this need and desire to be an active player of life. And no matter what that looks like, it can then be rebuilt from the ground up. But then having information from what worked and what didn't work from the previous startup or thing that it can be fun. Like it can be informative and fun if you can be open to the newness of something that wouldn't have necessarily happened if you hadn't had that prior experience.
Right. Yeah. See where it takes you. Yeah. This podcast is the second version. Originally, this was going to be a in-person live performance series where we'd have artists come to the house. We have a studio set up here and do acoustic performances with them. And we were getting guests, but everyone wanted to be remote. That doesn't work with live performance. And then everyone's parents started following her, like band members' moms.
Yeah.
We would cover a song and then the bass player's mom would follow her. And I was just like, you should just interview them. Interview the moms. That'd be fun. And this blossomed out of that.
Like,
you never know.
I could do that.
No one's doing that.
So
Talking to friends, to family members. It's fun.
And not just musicians, but now creative people.
Right. Actors, everyone.
Yeah, it's been fun. But I was a communications major. I work in insurance and have for 11 years. And I was like, I'm unhappy and I want to try to do something in the indie community and like something in the music industry, hopefully. And this was just kind of a starting point. And I hope to grow and I hope to expand myself and make connections through the podcast to then hopefully make a bigger impact in that. Yeah. So I totally can relate, but starting a little bit later in life, I think, than you guys.
It's never too late. So I would love to know more on the voice acting side of things. I have just recently stumbled into a voice acting career with some games and stuff, and I love it. I would love to know your journey with it. Knowing you majored in music theater makes perfect sense going to voice acting from there. But I would love to know the details of that journey.
So when I graduated college, I, like I said, hadn't really come across voice actors in my life other than watching a lot of animation and SpongeBob being my favorite show. I think it just was something that existed, but I never really literally ever went, I want to one day do that. I just kind of had it in my awareness of something I enjoyed. And in chorus, when I was younger, I have this very core memory of having my teacher move me to the 8th grade choir because I was like too loud. And I have been told many times in my life that I speak too loud. So I think there's this interesting dichotomy of I've always been aware of the fact that I speak too loud, but I never allowed it to become an insecurity of mine. If anything, I've always really leaned in and been like, well, now I'm going to speak louder. Yeah, like I'm like, okay, if you think I'm too loud, like, I don't know, what if I spoke like this? Now, are you interested? Like, I played around with that. And so I've always had like a love for my voice. I really have always just had a really positive relationship to my voice. So then when I graduated college, I started working with a production company that was based out of Virginia. So it was remote, but I was signed exclusively for non-union work, where there was a lot of upside to that because I was constantly getting auditions because this production facility was just putting out so much content and so much media that they needed voice actors on their roster in order to make that happen. And so being a voice actor with them, I was able to get a voiceover reel out of it without having to put up my own money right out of college. And I learned a lot from a producer I was working with. And the now studio that isn't in New York City anymore was at the time in New York. So I was able to like have time in the studio that you don't really get anymore after COVID because all of the studios shut down and everyone's working remotely, especially in the voice acting world. Skip ahead, left the production company to then pursue an agent and work in various sectors of voiceover that I hadn't explored. And it just opened up my world. I have an agent and I'm sent auditions for video games, animations, and commercial mostly. And I've done a lot of radio and I've done a couple of commercials and I've booked some voiceover by myself outside of my agent. So it really does take the hustle. But yeah, in terms of like logistically speaking, it went from the production company to now having an agent. And I think an agent really is a catalyst for having work that I wouldn't be considered for just in terms of like them having their relationships. But I utilize my voice as a tool in having the voiceover experience that I have in my nonprofit and in other ways. So I record content with my voice as the primary audio, and I just find that that's like a lot of the learning. I do meditations on Insight Timer as a passion project alongside voiceover acting because, to be like quite honest, a lot of voice acting is auditioning. So a lot of my time is spent getting an audition, spending however long it takes me to do the audition. And so the amount of work that I've booked is few and far between, but the amount of auditioning I'm auditioning like a couple times a day sometimes. Yeah. So much. And all of the things that I'm learning from the experts in the field is being a working actor is auditioning. It kind of takes the persistence and wherewithal to remind yourself, I am a working actor if I'm auditioning. But the goal of my day-to-day as a voice actor is how can I be a voice actor? In addition to auditioning, like what can I create today that I can use my skill set in other ways? And it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you have a free voice actor for all your nonprofits,
it's literally great.
Content, everything. I never need to pay for stock music. I can just make anything. It's great.
Jade's like an amazing producer of events, right? Your voice as like not literally just how it sounds, but your message and like what you say and your perspective is always just really unique. And I think whether it's literally writing a song or just giving a speech at an event, you've had so many opportunities, I think, to share a message and really have like a perspective that I think your voice in that way, not just like how it sounds, but what you're saying is very thoughtful. And that's like what I appreciate about our friendship, because we also, Jade's like, we're at like we're getting a glass of wine, or if I'm introducing her to someone in my life, she's like, hey, so like, how are you? And what is your deepest fear and why? but she's so disarming. Like people say it. Not that she's forcing them, but you just have a very approachable, disarming personality. And I think you're thoughtful in that way. So, your voice is powerful in many ways as someone who listens to you.
And that's what makes me a voice actor.
Yeah.
I appreciate that so deeply. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of the same to answer the question directly. My voice acting journey has been this, but also what Taylor's saying that's so meaningful. It's kind of the common thread of this conversation has been so far. How can you use your creativity to your advantage, to the world's advantage, to impact the world in a positive way? And I really take that to heart and take that seriously. And voice acting is a tool in my tool belt to hopefully follow my dreams and make money, but also to share information in positive and impactful ways.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect segue into talking about Entertainment for Change. I want to hear about how that came together. So you said it grew pretty much out of the Green Gala?
It did. Yeah, I was a musical theater major with a minor in entrepreneurship at Emerson.
Oh, wow. Great combo.
And yeah, I switched my major to acting, and I went from a BFA to a BA, which kind of opens the world up a little bit in terms of your workload and what you're expected to do. And so when I was looking at minors, I saw the entrepreneurship minor. My mom has been in sustainable fashion since the 90s and started
a school too, right?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where, like, I was raised in the natural products industry and have been watching all these people who were hippies in the consumer world create businesses that now everybody knows, and it's been like an amazing thing to observe. But I was in this entrepreneurship minor at Emerson. The trajectory of the minor was to create a company and pitch it at the end of the minor, and I was doing the Green Gala at the time, and I was producing from scratch and thinking, okay, how can I translate this concept and make it something that's scalable and make it something that's sustainable. And a lot of learning in business is how can you make a profit? I really didn't know what to do. And I had a pitch by the end of the minor, but I just was a girl with a passion and I didn't understand what it took to have a business, which was a superpower of mine. Like, I actually think that not knowing what I was doing allowed me to not question myself and stop. Like, I just kind of kept going. And when I graduated college, I was like, I have this nonprofit organization called Entertainment for Change. We make art that changes the world. And people were like, that's so cute. Like, oh, no. How do you do that? What do you mean? You're like, it's fine. No, I know. I would go to networking events in New York City and I'd be like, we're changing the world through art. And people were like, cool. I mean, how can I support you? And I was like, here's my email. How do you think you can support me? And they're like, okay. Yeah. Why want to support you? So it's taken a lot of learning. Fast forward, COVID happened, really asked myself, what am I doing? And I've been really, really lucky and really, really grateful to have friends like Taylor who have been able to have conversations with me through the moments where I just had no idea what I was doing. And being interested in what I was passionate about was what kept me going. And this nonprofit, I do want to make a positive difference with art. And I want to empower and educate young people because I'm so passionate about kids and teens. I want to empower them to make a difference because that's what I needed and that's what I wanted when I was a teenager. I was a creative girl and I was doing theater and I was reading out loud in class and I wanted someone to put something in front of me and go, read this. This will actually inspire 10 people to recycle. I would have thrived with someone telling me to do that or helping me consider that that was an option. And so I want to do that for young people, and Entertainment for Change has been the iteration of that passion. But then during COVID, I was like, how am I doing that? And Taylor was a teacher in that I created a class series during COVID because everyone was out of work. Young people didn't have school and young people didn't have camp. So I was like, my friends who want to share purpose and these kids who don't have anything to do, combining those two things, I was like, Taylor, I'm going to put together a series of classes. You can teach whatever you want, but it needs to align to the Sustainable Development Goals. So it needs to have purpose intertwined with whatever it is you want to teach, however you want to channel art as a means of inspiring these kids. It was really fun and really cool. And that's how becoming an impact artist in that curriculum happened, because I was like, what if we could teach young people how to become an impact artist and educate and have an educational outlet that was just different from what is the norm.
I love that you're using it's the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, right?
Yes.
Which is a list of, it's like 17.
There's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's another voice acting strength of mine, saying that really fast.
You have that pitch memorized. Yep.
I know, it's like the voice acting combined with the amount of times I've said it. It's just like, try to say it really fast. Yes. The United Nations put forth an agenda that they were trying to obtain by 2030. And I think that they've added more goals. But what I love about them is there's community within the people that are trying to support these goals. And I think school systems are latching on to the United Nations as an entity. So there's a lot of positives in allowing a young person to connect their art form to a sustainable development goal and then find someone in another state or in another country that might be doing something aligned to that sustainable development goal that's different. But the fact that they're both trying to pursue this goal connects them. And then if you're pursuing this one sustainable development, like goal number 3, good health and well-being, and someone else is pursuing goal number 17, partnerships, we're trying to
and it gives you really specific clarity. You can say like, I want to do good. And like you were saying, that doesn't give you much specificity, but having that list is like perfect starting point. That's
yes. Unless you do want to tell people you want to change the world through art, then you can go through my journey of people being like, change the world. Like,
and you are.
That's a lot.
But like you said, you didn't stop. You didn't, overthink it and stop. And it's just the people who do things.
It's a blessing in disguise to not,
it.
like, ignorance is bliss almost. It's kind of nice to feel your crazy ideas matter to you. So that's what drives you.
Lots of crazy ideas get done. The only time it doesn't is if you give up on it.
I want to pivot just a little bit. And you guys have said you've collaborated a lot together. What is your favorite collaboration that you've done?
What if? Okay, so Jade wrote a song called, this is like TBT. Oh my gosh. We'll send you some of the footage. So I don't even know when this was. It was before the pandemic, maybe between 2017 and 2018. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Jade wrote an original song called What If? And as Jade does, she's like, I got this song. You want to dance to it? And I said, I'm unemployed. Why not? And so my good friend Adam and I, we created sort of in real time. It was just like a really nice, like not high stakes, not low stakes, but we just cared about it. And it's how we brought Mitch into our world. Sweet Mitch, videographer. He's based in LA now, but he was learning how to capture dance. I was learning how to create movement for the camera. Jade was, in a way, giving us this opportunity with her voice and her story and getting that access to the space. It just felt like a nice collaboration. The investment of just making something just to make something, with no agenda, with no ticket sales, with no clout, with no posting it on social media for who knows what. We were just making it. And I think we shared it, but that wasn't why we made it. And it was just a whole day that we spent together. We got sushi after. Again, it's these are just the moments that I miss in New York as an artist. I think, again, so many of my friends have gone on and continually are employed in certain things that kind of take you away from the city or create a very different look on what the city is. And yeah, I think that was my favorite collaboration. And again, it was, we just wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to speak on that, I think the essence of What If, like Taylor said, was here's a song that I did in a songwriter's workshop. I'm not a songwriter and I love to sing, but it's surely not it's not a pursuit in my career as much as it's just something that I love so much. What If was such an incredible outlet for me to just share something that mattered in my personal life at the time with no, as Taylor said, end goal. There wasn't a goal of, I hope people follow my music. I surely had no intention of sharing any more music. Still haven't. And the thing that I love both about our professional and personal relationship, Taylor has always been such a yes and friend and collaborator. And I know that whenever I ask Taylor to collaborate with me. And I also know that Taylor will say no to me if she has either no interest or doesn't have time. I don't get worried about the lack of information I'll receive from her. I never even had a thought of how will this affect our friendship? The beauty and essence of our relationship is always very clear and communicative, but also there's so much excitement around the different things we've done together because we're both down to do something for the sake of just creating. And I think that makes it so exciting because I don't feel this weird expectation from her of it needs to be this thing that's going to further her career or my career. It can be what it is and that be enough for both of us. And that's why that kind of a project is so fun for both of us because we both can go into it with the energy of Taylor having total free will to do whatever she wants with choreography because I trust her as a choreographer and a dancer, and me just providing an outlet and or a song that just shares truth and something that matters and seeing what happens and having a white canvas for both of us to just play.
I think it's so important to be able to just make art for its own sake.
Totally.
The second we lose sight of that, the rest of it's not fun anymore. It's just a day job,
And I think with social media, there's a lot of real pressure to create and then have enough people seeing it. And I think that it kind of loses the essence of, as cheesy as it is, the journey of just creating it because we're so consumed with what the end result will look like and how it will be perceived by the world.
Being creative and having a friendship that you can be creative in is so important. And even if it doesn't lead to anything or it's just for fun, I think it's so important. And I think it builds that connection even closer. For us,
I was going to say, there's a lot of similarities in our relationship. And I'm the big, insane, crazy thinker, and she is the most organized person in the universe, and I'm the opposite of that.
But we've created things just for fun and just to put it out, and who cares if people see it. We've done stuff just for our own personal use.
And even this, she's the one who organizes this, gets in touch with every guest and everything. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to set up lights here and here. We've got a 6K camera there. We've got a whole TV on a stand over here, rolling cart, 8-channel interface,
But I'm the one talking to all the managers and making sure okay, can we post this before this TV show comes out or, whatever.
Right. She's all logistics.
But I see a lot of the things that you struggle with and I feel like I can help ground you. It's a similar dynamic, I think, with you guys where you guys can ground each other and remind each other to do maybe something you haven't thought of and make sure that the collaboration goes well, even if it's for no purpose, but just.
Yeah. I think something that works for us is that we've learned and exercised how not to project our own idea onto the other person when supporting them in something unrelated to me. So if Jade's coming to me with something, maybe something's happening with EFC and you've had a little bump in the road, even though I may have an idea of how I would do it, it's just how can I ask a question that's not a leading question to get her to just go where I want her to go, but like, what are the questions that you can be asking somebody else so that they can start to think and have agency within what it is that they need? And I just think, like, again, like knowing your strengths and knowing their strengths, like I could very easily be like, well, yeah, you probably should have like gotten back to them a little sooner, because that's me projecting something that actually isn't why she's coming to me.
Right.
Or sometimes I've been in positions, maybe not even just with you, but other collaborators, where it's, hey, is this something where you want me to like help problem solve in this moment? Do you want to just talk it out because like you're just needing to let off steam? And it's just being thoughtful about the questions and the conversation and the function of those conversations, I think really can help someone feel like they're not proving anything to you when they come to you in a moment of need. Because I think something that I've learned for myself is like, I'm someone that's like, well, I've already got it figured out, but I thought of, and I'm going to give you the precursor, and I'm going to give you the preamble of every single thought. But Jade's just like, what, how do you feel? What are you feeling? And I'm like, well, I think I'm feeling this because she's like, no. How are you feeling? And I'm like, great question. I think I already thought of that, but why does that matter?
And then I come to Taylor with like a bajillion feelings of how I'm really feeling. And Taylor's like, this is how I would explain it to someone in a sentence so that they actually can receive how you're feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. Like she puts words to my like, word vomit.
And it makes us better people of the world. And that's why art is important, right? It's like, you are able to deal with a random person on the street that gives you annoyance because you have that empathy to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe they're late. I'm not late for anything. I'm just going to step to the side. That doesn't bother me. Or maybe it does bother me and I'm going to deal with it later. I'm going to go take a dance class. Like, it just makes us like better people of the world. So I just think our collaboration has really allowed us, like you said, to grow.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I love like what you said about the fact that it feels safe for me to go to Taylor with, which is what I was saying before about being a yes and kind of collaborator and friend. I have never once questioned myself in coming to Taylor for advice, thoughts, soundboard, anything. I know that, and there's a level of trust that comes with that, of course. I know that the information that Taylor will share with me will be helpful or eventually will be helpful. And I just think it's important to have people like that in your life. But what Taylor said about collaboration, it's really not projecting what you think someone should do, but rather asking questions that then lead them to their own answers out loud.
Have you collaborated outside of your friendship with other people? Say, have you found somebody that you really wanted to collaborate with and then cold call or reach out to them out of nowhere? And I ask that because from my perspective, I struggle with this, having the skill set that I want to share with other people and finding other people that I'm like, wow, this could probably really benefit them, but having no connections with them, having no way of really reaching out, but wanting to share my skills to help them, to help benefit them. How would you do that? Or how have you done that in your careers?
Yeah. So when people are like, why did you decide to move to New York City? I don't really know.
Be with me.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's valid.
I just me moving to New York, I knew of people, but I didn't know how to like get in. And so like my way of doing it, which again is at a time in 2016. So it's like a whole different landscape now for people coming to the city, just taking class and taking it upon myself to like say thank you to the teacher at the end, not just to like put my face forward, but because I really did enjoy it, knowing that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it was like time after time being committed and loyal to certain choreographers that I really enjoyed. Carla Garcia is the person I attribute so much like that spark that just kind of ignited so many things. So she at the time was an ensemble member in Hamilton, and I think she was just recovering from an injury. I said thank you at the end of the class, and she's like, hey, like, are you around on Friday to come assist? I'm teaching the same combo. Again, I said yes and, right? Improv, baby. No, but yeah, I got nothing else on my schedule, obviously, so I'm going to come take this class. From there, it just cascaded into this like, well, now I'm doing pre-production for a musical that I'm doing. I had no idea what the heck pre-production was. Basically just getting into a studio before going to a formal rehearsal process just to kind of get some of those ideas out. I was showing up in a way that my skills were just like so nicely matching this. And again, I was committed to this person's vision. And I just found that I was flourishing there. And then it just kind of leapfrogged onto the next thing, because then that trust started to be built. And then when another choreographer, Stephanie Clemens, who is the associate choreographer for Hamilton, she needed a dancer to fill in for something. And I just said, yeah, I got that. And again, I don't really know what I got. Like, I don't even really know how to do this.
Got a lot.
But, but like, I just said yes. And so it's just sometimes that like random universe thing where you're just like in the right place at the right time with great skill sets and honest connection. Like, it's like all those things, right? And so I think for anybody that's like trying to get their foot in the door, you can smell it from a mile away when someone is just getting to you just to like get ahead. And I believe that everybody is hungry and wants to get what they want. And there are some people who've maybe come to me that maybe I'm not a good fit for them, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to like put their name forward to somebody else. And so I just think we have to trust that there are always those people that are going to put your name forward if it's the right fit. And then I think the last thing I'll say is I still have in my inbox on my Gmail account in a draft. I keep it. It's been since the summer of 2019. I was working with Steph Clemens on a bunch of shows, and I knew that there was a show that she was working on with Andy Blankenbuehler, who choreographed Hamilton. And I wrote this email kind of just being like, hey, thanks for working on this thing that we did this summer in Pittsburgh. I would love to be considered for anything in the future. I know, and I said the wrong name of the musical at the time because I just didn't know. No. But, such and such comes along. I would love to be considered. I never sent it because by that time of me like sending it probably to Jade to edit and like all these people, she had reached out to me. And then my career just kind of kept going. Obviously, pandemic will let that be its own thing. Yeah. But that's something where I still have it saved as a draft, as a reminder to myself to say it's never bad to just cold ask something. Because when it is the right person and the right project, it is going to happen. And I do believe in reaching out to people who you really feel connected to, not just because they have clout. Because I have a lot of people who have come to me in times of like wanting to join associate work and be like, how do you know who to collaborate with? And it's just, you just keep your ego in check, know the type of work that means something to you. And like the right people will continue to stay in your path. So yeah, I've had so many collaborators, but yeah, just freaking go for it.
I'm very much unafraid to talk to people, and I very much look at people as a person dealing with things and thoughts and feelings just like I am. And I really come into connections and asks with confidence without an expectation of an answer. I think that's kind of also a key for me, is if this person says no, how is it going to make me feel? And most of the time I'm like, I will still go through my day and be okay. And I think there's a level of freedom that comes with that, because then you walk into a conversation with genuine passion behind what you're saying. And I think going into a conversation like that allows for just a sense of ease for yourself to not be attached to what is going to happen. And often I think if you're agenda driven with what you're doing, that is a great way to be, if the positive side of an ego of like what I need to get out of this. But I think to counteract the like pressure that comes with that, you can kind of strip your ego and go like, what can I do for them? What is the thing that will add value to their podcast, show, career, like in whatever way you see fit? But as a person, how can you add value? And I think I've always approached that. And a literal example of when I first moved to this city, I was at this Barnes & Noble panel that my mom was speaking on for purpose-driven media. And Jay Shetty, who has this podcast on Purpose, he was on the panel with my mom. And this was in like 2018. He had just moved to New York City and had created a couple of YouTube videos. And now he's this kind of massive thought leader in the space, and said, my passion is to make wisdom go viral. And I was like, I love that. Like, that is so up my alley for like everything that I believe in. And he wasn't really a name or anything. I just loved what he shared. And I said to him, I was like, I see you're creating YouTube videos. I produced an event at my college. I've done a lot of producing, and I have networks in actors. And so if you ever need help networking or producing a video, let me know. And I got a message from him. Actually, I messaged him like once a week and he didn't answer. And then he finally messaged me back like weeks later being like, I have this video and I need actors. Are you down to help me produce it? And I produced 2 of his videos and acted in 2 of his videos like early on in his career. And I just kept following up because like I believed in like so deeply what he was doing. And then he scaled what he was doing. And then during COVID, I produced a series on Instagram where I was interviewing people in that space and asked him to do it. And now I have a relationship to him that has twists and turns and manifested in various ways, but he's someone that I really look up to. And from the beginning, it was not about who he was. It was literally about what he wanted to do and his mission that I resonated with. And I think that's how I approach things is if you are a person that is doing something that I believe in, I'm not going to be afraid of you. And just because you have a large following or people perceive you a certain way, we clearly have a common interest.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to express with you. And if you don't need my help or need me or are uninterested, that's when you have to kind of, or at least for me, my ego doesn't matter here. It's not about that. And I think our egos sneak up on us in a lot of ways.
They do.
Can be, especially in the creative space.
I have one other thing, like hearing about this and to what you were talking about in terms of your efforts in getting into certain industries and stuff. I think it's also really important to remain a student and really understand all aspects of whatever industry you're trying to get involved with. I think especially as somebody who's been on the other side of the audition table, especially for the show that I work on, so much talent is out there. It is insane. The access that we have to training, to multidisciplinary approaches to so many things that make people phenomenal at what they do. I think it's helped me, being on the other side of the table, see how many other facets of this industry are involved when casting a show, when saying yes to produce a piece of film. Like, you know, there's so many things. So the more that you actually can really understand the industry and in ways that are not to diminish the value or like be like, oh no, it's all like a big business. It's like, no, like be a student. And I think the stamina that is required to understand these facets and how you play a part in that, as long as it's like still checking out and you're still feeling good, like you're not selling out, like I do think you will be able to just have so much information about what it is that you're a part of, and it'll allow that like intuition to be even clearer of like, oh yeah, no, that's a person that I really do want to collaborate with. It's not just the hottest choreographer that's current, because I think that's the same thing as like staying relevant does not necessarily mean that you have to adapt to what is hot right now. It's like when you like wear something cool, it like might not be on trend, but I feel good in it, and I know like the store that I like to go shopping at, and like that's where I'm gonna go and
collaborate with that store.
Yeah, like if we want to get into it, but like
they start every day.
Yeah, so yeah, there's just so many ways to collaborate and get involved, and it could be overwhelming, but I think the little steps that build on it, as long as you're like staying true to your center and your why, they will be the right things, I think.
Yeah, like being patient too, I think is important, because I've been trying to figure out my journey for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years at this point, and figure out different ways that I can make those connections with different people, and finally being patient and then trying to find a way of this is what I can help with. I finally found something where I could be like, yes, I absolutely know how I can help. Just following everybody in general that I would want to work with and be like, okay, when something comes up, this is what I'm going to present. But I have to wait for that moment to present.
I think finding that intrinsic motivation like you're talking about, I think the biggest thing both of you kept coming back to was finding something you can do for the reason of it, and not necessarily putting it all on this one person where I've got to work with this one person on this thing, or it's nothing. Like you were saying, 6, incredible achievement, amazing. And you think of it as just another stone in the pathway. You know, you're going to do more things. You've done things before this, and it's all just a piece of a bigger puzzle.
But also for you, Jade, you said, oh, like I messaged him trying to work with them. Were you like nervous that he was going to be angry that you reached out every day or every week?
Am I annoying? No. I
No.
A question for myself to reflect on. No. I mean, I think no. I'm very unapologetically myself, and no. Am I gonna like message? Did I message him every week? Probably not. I'm not gonna like message him every day. I have a lot of self-awareness. Like I pride myself on that. So, but I'm persistent, and I also truly fundamentally believe in the fact that we have one life to live.
Yeah.
We got one life. And if I allow myself to let the days go by without pursuing something that I believe in or someone I want to work with, no one else is going to do it for me. And
Right.
I feel that. And at Emerson, I cold outreached to the president of the college, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, he's either going to say yes or no. I don't know. I had him holding a yoga ball that we then changed in editing to be the planet Earth. And
That's awesome.
our poster was just him holding the planet all over the college. And I was like, that is my greatest accomplishment
That's
ever.
so much fun.
No, but to answer your question, it's a delicate balance that I'm still learning. Like, I don't actually have the answer to that question. I think everybody's going to receive it differently in different stages of their life. I think people who maybe are a parent and they have kids at home and they get home at the end of their workday and have to answer emails might not respond. So maybe a little push, but in a way that isn't becoming another task on their to-do list. It's just an awareness. What is this person's bandwidth like? And I've learned a lot about that through my mom and through the lens of my mom. My mom's been high level in her career for a very long time. So I've seen the way she's worked directly with people who are busy. And I just have very much observed that very thoughtfully, because if someone doesn't answer you, if you really want to work with them, how can you be strategic in that pursuit, but also be mindful that you're not their priority? So that is true, but also don't take it personally. Like, it's not necessarily about you that they're not answering. It's just like they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking on that, like being really clear in what you're asking for, making sure it's not, making sure you're not asking more of them than you'd be putting into it. That's something I talk about a lot because, I get DMs of like, hey, I want to do this thing. Can you do a bunch of work for me to do it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
they just like have nothing to show. They like say, "Oh, do you want to do a collab?" And they have nothing posted. It's
Right,
like,
right. The DM of, hey, want to collab? Okay, on what and who are you and why would okay.
Yeah.
And also leading with what you're going to do for them, I think, is a huge component to being received well by someone who doesn't know anything about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm learning as time goes on, especially with this podcast. Outreach has been like, they don't answer, but at least I tried. At least I reached out, and I'm starting to really grow from that. And I think it's just, like you said, it's important to just be aware, but also you have one life. You might as well try. And if they say no, who cares? Just move on and find something else.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Yeah, so much fun. We've never really done something like this before, so now it's on our list of things we
got a new
collaborated
collab.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really am so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you two, but also just bringing on a best friend of mine, and just the clarity that I received from your pitch of someone to bring on. I was like, there's such story behind our relationship, as I'm sure you maybe caught. And I think, maybe.
That's
or you
good.
just heard a bunch of rambling and you're like, I don't really
No,
know
no.
what he said.
No.
No, I felt it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is
Thank
there
you so
anything the
much.
two of you want to promote right now?
Taylor?
Oh my God.
Take it away.
I don't
Promote each other.
I would like to promote kindness and compassion. And I would like to promote.
Is that playing in Manhattan? Or-
I would like to.
sorry.
See? I would like to promote supporting the Broadway community and coming to see a show. And I would like to promote kindness and compassion. That's it.
Yeah, anything
Great,
you
that's
do
beautiful.
that's kind this week, tag Taylor in it so that she can
I will.
Taylor Jade McMahon.
see it.
That's my Instagram.
I'm promoting kind. Like, if I don't say I'm promoting kindness, my answer is just not as.
Doesn't look great.
Sorry.
Listen to What If. No, I'm kidding.
All of our guests from now on have to do that.
I'm trying to become a musician, and I really, no, I mean, at Entertainment for Change is the nonprofit, and we are looking for teenagers to become impact artists. If you know a teenager that wants to use their art or creativity for positive change in the world, or just need somewhere to place their artistic energy, we're doing like a free of charge case study for teens. And I think that I'm clearly very passionate about helping teenagers. So it comes from a very authentic place to work with your teenager today.
There's the voiceover. There it is.
But at Jade Zaroff and at Entertainment for Change, entertainmentforchange.com, and at Kindness.
And be kind, and you should cut us off at any time.
Yeah, and be good people. Yeah.
I
This is
actually-
perfect.
I actually know a
He's wrapping
teenager she's a dancer, and I'm going to send her your information to her mom, because her mom and I work together, and I've known her since she was 3, and she's like the most incredible dancer, and she's
Awesome.
super dedicated and everything to it, and I bet her mom would really like that. So I'm going to send your information to her
Great.
later. But
Done.
yeah,
See? Connection died.
There
Boom.
you go.
Thank you.
Well,
I
thank you to
appreciate it.
Jade and Taylor for joining us. This has been Relatively in Tune. If you like what you heard, you can head to @RelativellyInTunePod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. I've been Dean DeMarzo.
I'm Tori DeMarzo.
This is Relatively in Tune. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.